Well, hello again. This is the 14th of October 2024 and this is another Aughty Thoughty. And today I am going to talk about the autistic experience of glimmers and their negative counterpart, the aversions. What are glimmers and aversions? They are very strong emotional responses. Some describe physical responses, though I've never actually felt that myself, to certain sensory stimuli. And as an example of a glimmer, I have brought this cup. Now this cup I bought in a hardware shop in Goole in 2017. I'll just bring it a bit closer to the camera. I don't know if you can see. It's made of glass and it's got a sort of metallic inner to it. So it's got this sort of two-layer luster to it. I don't know how well it's picking up on the camera, as we will see in due course when it's all uploaded and everything, and I can't be bothered to redo the whole thing. But anyway, that is a massive glimmer for me. I was out with my mum. We sort of ended up in Goole to look at some Christmas lights because, well, we were supposed to go into the Christmas market in Leeds, but the train was cancelled, so we thought maybe we'd go to Hull to see what was going on in Hull, and the motorway was closed, so we just sort of wound up in Goole, wandering round the shops, and I wandered into a hardware shop and this cup was hanging up, and I sort of glanced at the display thinking, why are they selling cups in a hardware shop? And oh my word, this one caught my eye. This caught my eye. And what is a glimmer? It's a particular sensory stimulus. It could be a piece of music. It could be the texture of some fabric. It could be the sound of somebody's voice. It could be a carpet. It could be a pretty tree. It could be absolutely anything, any sight, sound, smell, what do you call it? Sensation, anything that invokes some sort of disproportionately wonderful response. Now, this cup to me, when I saw this cup hanging up on that display in that hardware shop, it was like climbing to the top of a hill and looking down at a beautiful view. Or, I don't know, just seeing something, you know, a priceless historic artifact in a museum. It was like having a wild animal come and eat out of my hand. You know, there is no way of describing it that doesn't sound like absolutely ridiculous hyperbole to someone who hasn't experienced it. But this cup, now, I mean, these sort of saturated jewel colours always do it for me, right? And purple in particular, this deep violet, yes, we like that. That's been a very long-term favourite of mine. And as I described, it's got this sort of metallic undercoat to it and transparent top coat, which yeah, that set me off. And some describe it as a physical tingling or buzzing in their fingertips. I've never actually felt it as a sensation. I experienced it as more of an emotional zing. You know, like fireworks going off in my brain. You know, wow, that's spectacular. That cup is perfect. Now, as a cup, as an actual functional piece of, well, it's not really furniture, is it? A cup of, piece of kitchenware, I suppose you'd call it. it's not the best, to be honest. It's quite small, it's quite heavy for its smallness. The handle's just sort of a bit too big for 3 fingers and not quite big enough for 4. It's not perfect in terms of a cup, but the colour, the texture of it, yes, we like that. We like. Oh yes, like. And glimmers can come and go. They can be things that are repetitive. You know, you see this, as I say, this colour for me, this colour, you know, every time I see something, this particular shade of violet, it does something. It does something. But this one in particular, because of, you know, the texture of it and everything, was something particularly strong. But yeah, anything this colour set me off, and it has been doing for a very long time, probably since my early teens. Or it can be a one-off thing. You know, I remember the first time I ever tried koftas. You know, I put it in my mouth, and it was mind-blowing taste experience like nothing I'd ever had before. But then, you know, the next time I had koftas, I knew what to expect, and it wasn't quite the same. I mean, I liked them, they were tasty, but it just wasn't exactly like the first time, and it never has been again. Though I've eaten koftas many times, still trying to chase that experience, but it's never quite been like that first taste. Which was a bit disappointing, really. It's one of those things, I don't know if neurotypical people have any kind of equivalent to this, except maybe seeing somebody that they're in love with, or I don't know, having a nice cup of tea at the end of a long day. I don't know, do they really enjoy that as much as I do? I don't know. It's part of the magic of being autistic, I think, having glimmers. I actually sort of feel a little bit sorry for people who don't experience them, because it is, you know, the spice of life. You know, seeing a nice cup and your brain goes all zappy. It's nice. I mean, the only time it ever actually caused me any sort of negative any negativity at all was once when I was very into orange. I just every time I saw anything orange, I had to have it. You know, I had orange clothes, I had an orange handbag, I had orange shoes, I had an orange toothbrush, and I had an orange cup. You know, I was really crazy about orange for several months, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I found myself entrenched in a massive, all-consuming spin on Northern Ireland and the Troubles. Yeah, and suddenly all this orange stuff was, you know, to my mind, representative of kind of an organisation that is for everything I'm against, and vice versa. So, yeah, that was the only time it has ever been anything other than an absolutely wonderful, beautiful, lovely gift. And aversions are the flip side to the glimmer. I know in pregnancy, neurotypicals in pregnancy experience aversions. I have read about it. When pregnant myself, it is a very common thing for people of all neurotype to have a particular food or a particular smell that just makes them heave. And for me, both times I've been pregnant, been pregnant long enough to actually develop aversions. It was greasy meat, and because I walk to work past 2 fast food outlets, and I used to just get into work and hang over the toilet, and it was not pleasant at all. No, I mean I was doing plenty of puking anyway during both my pregnancies. The first one particularly all the way through. The second one, it did subside eventually. But yeah, the smell of those cafes, yeah, it was extremely extremely unpleasant. And again, very like Glimmers, aversions can come and go. They can be a one-time thing, or they can be a lifelong thing. They can just pop up and surprise you at some point. You sort of put on an item of clothing and think, I've got to get this off. Or you can have a particular thing that just sets you off for years and years and years every time. Like for me, nuts. Most kinds of nuts, in particular almonds and peanuts. And it's one of those things that's actually quite difficult to avoid. Someone offers you a chocolate or a slice of cake or something, you go, oh yeah, thanks, and bite into and there's a nut in it, and nobody thinks to tell you, oh, are you all right with nuts? Unless you are allergic. And I do sometimes just say to people I can't eat nuts and let them interpret that as they will. And if they want to think I am allergic, I'm not going to tell them otherwise, because I do not want nuts anywhere near me. Yeah, and I know it's absolutely irrational. It's completely a me problem. It's not something that is anybody else's fault or anyone can do anything about. But I really hate nuts to the point that if I see a perfectly nice slice of cake with some nuts sprinkled on top, I actually feel personally affronted by that cake, by whoever made that cake. And of course, working in a supermarket, professionally, I handle nuts occasionally. People buy bags of nuts. We sometimes have to, put them on the shelf, put them out. We have big baskets of loose nuts for people to shovel up into bags. And again, I know it's irrational of me. I know there's nothing anyone can do about this. But yeah, if I respond as my sort of emotional reaction would like me to, then people would probably think I was completely mad. I mean, when I have a bag of nuts in my hand and I have to bip it through the till, it feels like I am holding a bag of poo. I'm not exaggerating there. I'm not sort of saying this to be funny or anything like that. It's just disgusting to me. And there isn't another way of describing. There isn't a more accurate way of describing it than that. It's like holding a bag of poo. It really is just an absolutely revolting, horrible object that I just want to get as far away from me as possible. And it's just a snack that most people enjoy popping in their mouths. And to me it's horrible, and I can't explain it. I can't say why I have this sort of visceral hatred of them, other than that they don't taste very nice to me. I know everybody's got a food they dislike. I have a lot of foods I dislike. I don't like onions. If I get served a curry that's got onions in it, I'll sort of push the onions to the side and eat the rest of it. I don't like onions, but they don't have this same sort of response as nuts. And that is the reality of having an aversion. I mean, there's a particular set of colours, you know, sort of powdery pastel colours that I strongly dislike. I mean, when I moved into this house, all the walls were magnolia, and I remember, you know, sort of painting over them colours that I liked, and you know, just seeing these sort of lovely bright colours going over all this magnolia. It was amazing. It was fantastic in ways that I can't describe without sounding like a complete hyperbolic maniac. But it was just seeing all that horrible magnolia disappear, you know. And it's just a colour. It's just a colour that I'm not keen on, you know, that I wouldn't choose myself, but it's just seeing it vanish under a lovely array of oranges and greens and purples and blues, you know. Oh, lovely. Make it all go away. Make that horrible magnolia go away. I remember it was half an hour before I had to go to work, and I was just sort of settling into the house, you know, getting my furniture put in and everything, and I just looked at that magnolia wall in the hallway, and I thought, I cannot stand looking at that wall. And as I say, half an hour before I had to go to work, I just got my roller tray out and I started painting, and I could not. I just couldn't leave it. It was I don't like magnolia. I don't like nuts. I'm sorry, I am an adult human, and I feel personally offended by cakes with nuts on top. And that makes no sense at all. It does not make any sort of objective sense to feel this way. And you know, if I let people know that I feel this way, if I start going whenever I see an almond, I'd just seem completely mad. I like this cup. I like the colour of this cup. Again, this is just part of the language that you learn as you start to learn more about autism, what it is to be autistic. And once you have language to say, you know, this cup is my glimmer, then it starts to make sense. Almonds are my aversion. That magnolia wall is my aversion, you know. I suppose in a way it's similar to having a special interest, but something that's very specific, you know, pinned down to a little pinpoint of one experience. You know, that there could be a glimmer that, you know, because it becomes a glimmer because it reminds you of your special interest. You know, like hearing the theme tune to your favourite TV series, or something. Maybe that could become a glimmer for you. Any kind of music that sounds a bit like that does things to your mind because it sets you off thinking about your spin, you know. It's... And like these ASMR videos that are so big at the moment, ASMR is a kind of a glimmer. I mean, for me personally, they don't do anything for me, really. But I know a lot of people speak of listening to them and feeling tingly or however, it makes them feel relaxed, or it makes them feel happy or excited or whatever. And I mean, that is a common glimmer. And I don't know if some neurotypical people share it as well. And that these videos of, you know, people putting glitter into Play-Doh and slime and things and mashing it all together. And I mean, that again, that's a similar sort of idea. You know, looking at all these pretty colours and sparkly things all moving around together, and it's pretty, it's relaxing, it makes you sort of feel happy looking at it. I mean, I sort of enjoy those, I suppose. I don't know if I wouldn't say they were a massive glimmer for me, but I'm sure a good proportion of the viewers do experience it in that kind of way. And these things, like, you know, things you see on YouTube, like listening to storms, you know, 2 hours of storm noises. That's, you know, a good proportion of those listeners have got to be glimmerers. I hope I've explained it pretty well there. I hope that's something that, you know, you find informative or relatable or in some way interesting. If not, I'm sorry to have wasted your time, but I certainly found it, I certainly enjoyed doing it, let's say. It's something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time. I mean, essentially that's why I do this channel, you know, just to sort of speak my mind at people who are not necessarily a captive audience. So I'll leave you to it. I'll see you in the next one.